Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're having a great day. And today we're going to be just continue our discussion on the pretenders, the fakers, and the EV makers. This is going to be part two. We're going to be talking about the companies I feel are just outright faking it. They have no intentions of making EVs. They're just going to do just enough and within what the law and regulation requires them to do. And they're also going to try to discourage purchasing of EVs or even their own EVs. And you may ask why, but that's what we're going to be discussing right now. So let's go ahead and get into it. If you saw part one of this video of the pretenders, the fakers, and the EV makers, I went over all the top vehicle sales for 2022. And all the top 3 vehicles were all big trucks. And in the top 10 or GM actually had 2 trucks in the top 10. And so these companies, Ford, Stellantis, and GM make a lot of profit off producing trucks and SUVs. That's where their money, that's their cash cow. As far as their EVs, they're not profitable making their EVs. In fact, they sell those EVs at a loss. And I'm just going to give you a little history of GM and why they should not be trusted and why I'm going to put them in the faker category. That's right, GM, the king of the fakers, has more history of killing EVs than they have produced. And I'm actually not joking with that. It's not really an exaggeration. So if we just give you a brief overview of GM's history with electric vehicles, they produced their first fully electric vehicle in 1996. And this is as a result of a California law that was passed that basically said any manufacturer producing vehicles in their state have to provide at least 2% of their vehicles have to be zero emissions. And as a result, GM created what's known as the EV1, the first fully electric vehicle in a modern era. And people love these vehicles. They loved them. And as soon as California changed the law in 2003 to go away from zero emissions, so they just had to reduce their emissions, GM killed the program. So everyone who had those EV1s, as soon as their leases expired in 2004, they came and collected all those vehicles up and destroyed them. I think it's only maybe one left, fully functional one that's left in existence. It's in the Smithsonian. And if you want to know more about this, there's a movie that's called Who Killed the Electric Car? And it's all about the EV1 and General Motors. So if you want to, go ahead and check that movie out. So moving to 2006, President George Bush increased the CAFE standards. And let me briefly explain to you what the CAFE standards are, and it stands for Corporate Annual Fuel Economy Rating. And basically this is the amount of miles per gallon cars have to get across the manufacturer's entire fleet. And in 2006, President George Bush raised the CAFE standards up to 35 miles per gallon. And as a result, GM, all of a sudden, here comes the Chevy Volt, which is a series hybrid, a plug-in hybrid vehicle that it gets anywhere from 30 to 50 miles electric range. And then after that, it switches over to a range extender, and which uses fossil fuels, and you can basically drive it across the country, so there's no need for range anxiety, which is a perfect vehicle for them because there were no charging stations anywhere at that point. So they created this as a result of George Bush raising the CAFE standards. And then again, President Obama raised them again in 2016 to 54 miles per gallon. And then when President Trump got into office, he rolled them back in 2019. And you probably don't even want to have to guess what happened in 2019. Yeah, you got it. You're right. In 2019, GM killed the Volt. They canceled the Volt. It was like, yeah, you know what? The CAFE standards rolled back down. You know, thank you for your service. You know your services are no longer needed or required. We're going to go ahead and keep producing these big old trucks and SUVs like our customers love. And we're going to keep pumping that profit in. And then, of course, they had the Chevy Bolt, which is a fully electric vehicle. And what these electric vehicles do, they help lower the CAFE standards for the vehicle. So something like a Chevy Bolt would be rated at maybe 300 miles per gallon electric. And so this will allow them to to really still be able to produce a lot of big trucks and SUVs without being penalized. And that's what they did. They produced them up until President Biden changed the rules again, really increased the CAFE standard really high up to make it difficult for these automakers to kind of game the system. And so what did GM do at this point? And at this point, the Chevy Volt was selling in record numbers. People couldn't get them. You had to be on the waiting list. And then they just killed the Chevy Bolt. And the Bolt was the least expensive electric vehicle you can purchase, much cheaper than the Tesla Model 3. And so these things were selling. People who own Chevy Bolts love these things. And GM killed the Chevy Bolt. And he was like, hey, why did they do that? Because they didn't want to sell them, that's why. They didn't want the people to buy these vehicles because they were not making profit. They were only selling these vehicles for the CAFE standards. And they were just going to sell enough just so they can, make that number that they needed to make and, be right at the corporate annual fuel efficiency rating. And so here we are today. You see that GM they stated publicly that by 2035, they want to go totally electric. You can believe that if you want to. They rolled out all these beautiful vehicles, the Hummer EV, which can get over 300 miles of range. They just rolled out the Chevy Silverado, which can get 450 miles of range. It's just some beautiful vehicles. And they paraded out the Chevy Equinox, the EV, and they had the Cadillac Lyric EV, all beautiful vehicles that they are not producing. Look at the production rate of these vehicles. They may have produced probably less than 100 of these things just this year. It's just ridiculous because they're not trying to produce electric vehicles. They are not. And in fact, expect GM to lobby Congress to try to push a lot of these regulations back. They're going to claim that these things are, producing these big trucks are unprofitable. And if you watch a lot of the rollout of the Chevy Silverado, they rolled out the work truck first, and it's priced at $79,000. There is no way that's a $79,000 vehicle that has a 220 kilowatt battery in it. No way you can sell that truck for that amount of money. They're losing money in those trucks, and they're okay with that because they can make it up in profit. And these are fleet vehicles, so if you're a consumer, you can't get this truck anyway. This is only for fleet people only. And so when can you expect your all fully electric Chevy Silverado EV? Probably never. So you can get on that waiting list and you're just going to be waiting and waiting and waiting until you get tired and you look at the price that they put out when they raised the price up on this Silverado. I think right now they're saying it's 110. When they raise the price to 120, you look at a regular gas Silverado and say, that looks like a bargain in comparison. That's what they're going to do. So they're going to delay and they're going to employ all types of tactics in order to discourage people from getting these vehicles, because they're only going to sell a certain amount. They're going to sell just enough to make the fuel, the CAFE standards, and also just enough to ensure that they're not losing too much profit. And so I don't know what the ratio is going to be, but there's going to be a ratio that they're going to calculate. Okay, we're going to have to sell this many trucks and SUVs. So for every, I'm going to just throw a number out there, for every 20 gas Chevy Silverados we sell, we can sell one Cadillac Lyric. And that's probably how they're going to work it out. Or for every 25 Chevy Sierras, we can sell one electric Chevy Silverado. So expect these vehicles to be extreme short supply, just like the GMC Hummer and the Cadillac Lyric. They're basically like unicorns. Good luck trying to find one. And that's why GM is going to deploy some tactics to slow the rate of EV sales and discourage consumers from purchasing them. And you say, hey, Duke, do you have any evidence of this? No, I don't. And I would say this is speculation, and I can't get inside the head of any of the management of GM, but I'm just going to look at what they're actually doing and make a determination based on their actions. And so, as you all know, GM has made a deal with Tesla to switch over to the North American charging standard, or the Tesla standard. And you say, you know what, they're just trying to sell EVs. I already established that GM is not trying to sell EVs because they're money losers. They want to sell big gas trucks and SUVs. In fact, let me take your attention to this article here where the EPA rated, and this is a CNBC article, GM, Stellantis rank as worst automakers for fuel efficiency, even amid EV push, EPA says. And so the EPA rated GM as the worst fuel economy manufacturer of them all. They do not want to produce electric vehicles because they're making so much profit off of these big trucks and SUVs. The CEO of GM has already stated that they cannot make a profitable EV for less than $40,000. So you can just take her word for that, not my word. And so you may be saying, why would they be slowing to sell the EVs? Because they're trying to sell EVs themselves. But like I already established, GM is not trying to sell EVs. They don't want to sell them. They're being forced to sell them by regulators. And this brings me back to the deal that they made with Tesla and why I say it's a fake deal. It's not real. If you say, well, Duke, they want to sell EVs. I already established that their history and their actions currently are saying that they don't. They don't want to sell EVs because they're not profitable. They want to sell trucks and SUVs. That's where they make all their money. So it would stand to reason that anything that they're doing right now is probably in the effort to slow the sale of EVs. And you say, how would they go about doing that? Why would they do this? The deal with Tesla. A lot of the people, most people, almost everyone except for me, I'm sure there's probably a lot of other people out there, I just haven't heard anyone voice this, that they have done this, in fact, to slow the sale of EVs, not in an effort to sell EVs. And I'm sure some of you probably heard of something known as the Osborne effect. And you say, okay, what is the Osborne effect? Okay, the Osborne effect refers to the consequence of publicizing or announcing a new, updated, or otherwise improved product so far in advance of its availability that the existing consumers cancel or delay purchase orders of that product until the new product is received. Let me say that again. The Osborne effect refers to the consequence of publicizing or announcing a new, updated, or otherwise improved product so far in advance of its availability that existing customers cancel or delay purchase orders of other products until the new product is received. And so basically with the Osborne effect, say, yeah, you got this new thing coming out. Tesla opened its charging standard up to everyone in the supercharger network. And also them adding the NACS port to their vehicles in 2025, the Osborne effect. And so why would you buy a GM vehicle now, or any EV, any of these EVs, or Ford included, and I'm going to throw Rivian in there too. Why would you buy right now if you know that there's going to be product improvement? It's still kind of far out, but in the interim, why wouldn't you just wait for the improved product? Because if you buy a car with a CCS connector right now, chances are you're buying an obsolete product. So why would you purchase that? Why would you put yourself in that position? Why would you not just wait until 2025 until there's a product improvement and they add the NACS connector onto their vehicle, and now you can charge at the supercharger network without a problem? Or you can go to EVgo, you can go to Blink, you can go to EA, where they're going to have the NACS connectors on their charging stations. And you probably won't be able to find a CCS connector. But you say, what are you doing in the interim? And up until 2025, they're going to be producing vehicles with CCS connectors. And at the current rate of production, if we look at these companies' production rates of EVs, or what they're claiming they're going to do, there'll be hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of new vehicles with CCS connectors by then. If you factor in all the other manufacturers, GM, Stellantis, Ford, the Hyundai Group, Toyota, Nissan, Volvo, Polestar, I mean, all of these Mercedes, BMW, all of these car manufacturers producing electric vehicles with the CCS connector up until 2025. I would say I'm calling the Osborne effect on this. The two companies that announced first, Ford and GM, that they're going to be switching over to the Tesla standard, have the least interest in making electric vehicles. Don't you find it a bit odd? Do you just take what they're saying as wholesale value? Do you just buy what they're saying, or are you actually looking at what they're doing? The companies that have the least interest in producing electric vehicles were the first ones to say they're going to switch over to the Tesla standard. And if you look at GM, they even have less of a reason to switch because their vehicle's on an 800 volt platform. And currently the V3 Tesla superchargers, they can't charge over 500 volts. So you won't get those charging speeds to charge those gigantic batteries up using a Tesla supercharger. With or without adapter, it won't matter. If that does, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that? Why would they decide to switch to a standard that was going to put them at a competitive disadvantage? Why would they do that? And you already see that the companies that haven't announced they're going to switch, which include Hyundai Group, which is Kia, Hyundai, and Genesis, because they have 800 volt platforms. They're going to put them at a disadvantage. But those are companies that primarily sell cars. They can be competitive in the EV space. BMW, the same thing. Volkswagen, the same thing. Those vehicles they have charge at 800 volts, so they don't really have invested in it. They lose a competitive advantage by switching over. So you see, saying, why would GM do it? Osborne effect. That's the only thing that makes sense. By coming out and saying you're going to switch so you can use the Tesla supercharger network would make anyone who was thinking about purchasing a Ford vehicle or a GM vehicle say, well, I'll just wait. I will just wait. And plus, it's going to put pressure on the other automakers to also try to make that switch. And like Rivian, for example, they had to make the switch. And that's fake too. Rivian deal is I'll say Rivian deals with Tesla is the fakest of them all. That's a fake deal. And I'm going to talk about that in my next video. The Osborne effect is something they can use to help slow down people's desire to purchase EVs by putting a bunch of confusion in the market space. Now people who were thinking about buying EVs are confused, like, okay, should I wait? I was thinking about buying an EV. I don't want to get a Tesla. But if I want to get one of these other EVs, they're talking about switching the standard. Maybe I should wait until they figure out and come up with one standard. I'm just not going to buy anything. I'm not going to buy GM or Ford. I'm not going to buy a Rivian product. I'm not going to buy anybody's stuff because we don't know what's going to happen. You know, we know all these companies say they're switching, but we don't know for sure. They say in 2025. That's not too far out. I'll just wait. I'm just going to wait. I'm not going to buy any EVs. The timing of all of this seems very suspicious to me because it all just happened to happen around the time that the NEVI funding requirements were just finalized. And also the EPA had just proposed new rules that were going to make it very difficult for these auto manufacturers to create loopholes to get out of, building electric vehicles. For one of the things the EPA is doing now is they're lowering the miles per gallon electric rating on some of these vehicles. So for example, I'm going to use a Ford F-150 Lightning, which may have been getting 300 miles per gallon electric before. Under these new proposed rules, it is going to bring it down to 76 miles per gallon electric. So it's going to really significantly impact their ability to offset those emissions by creating F-150 Lightnings. It's going to be a lot harder now. They're going to have to actually make a profitable vehicle. They cannot rely any longer on their sales of their gas trucks and SUVs. It's going to make it very hard for them. And so same thing, Ford's in the same boat. And Ford is already crying broke. They already said they lost $3 billion. They expect to lose another $3 billion. They're going to have to create layoffs. So they're already starting this narrative that the EV business is not profitable for them. And here comes GM. They jump on the bandwagon. These are smart companies. They are playing chess. They're not playing checkers. There are a lot of people saying, these people, they can't sell EVs. They're going to lose to Tesla. And not, they don't care. Let me tell you, I'm trying to explain to you, they do not care about Tesla selling EVs because they don't care about that market space right now. Will it cost them in the future? Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. But right now, they're making a lot of profit selling big trucks and SUVs. The majority of Americans do not own EVs. It's only like 7%. And so you figure the 93% of vehicles are internal combustion engine vehicles. Now, is the rate of electric vehicles going to increase? Yes. But they're trying to make profit while they can off these vehicles and hoping that probably in the future that the technology be more advanced where they can produce these electric vehicles at a point where they can make as much profit off them as they are making off of the gas vehicles. And I'm just going to give you some more proof as what I'm saying as far as GM is not committed to electric vehicles at all. It's all lip service. It's all for show. It's not for real. It's like icing on a brick, that's what it is. So they have no real interest in selling these things. It's just for show. And I'm going to give you more evidence as to what I mean by this. Let me see if I can open this up for you. And we're going to go to GM's corporate website. We're going to look at some articles that under GM's media page, some of the announcements that they just recently made. Okay, we're going to come to this first one right here. It said GM furthers Finland commitment with $1 billion in manufacturing investment. Let's go and open that article and see what they have to say there. Let me expand this for you. Let me see. Today we're announcing significant investment in Flint to strengthen our industry-leading full-size pickup business by preparing two plants to build the next generation ICE HD trucks, said Gerald Johnson, Executive Vice President, Global Manufacturing and Sustainability. Sustainability, that's very interesting. Part of the title. Again, it says ICE HD trucks. Internal combustion engine trucks. Not electric trucks. Internal combustion engine. Okay, let's go to the next article. And it's saying the date on this is June 5th. Okay, now let's move on to the next article that's dated June 8th. GM investing $500 million in Arlington assembly for future SUVs. Well, maybe they're going to be producing electric SUVs. Oh, that's a nice show that you're actually going to produce, moving on to electric vehicles. Let me expand this for you. Let me just go right down to the meat. Okay, right here. Today we're announcing plans for a significant investment in Arlington to strengthen our industry-leading full-size SUV business, said Gerald Johnson, Executive Vice President, Global Manufacturing and Sustainability, preparing the plant to produce future ICE full-size SUVs. And if you didn't get it before, ICE stands for internal combustion engine, more specifically gas SUVs. $1 billion for Flint, $500 million for Arlington. Okay, let's move on over to a few days later on June 12th. The headline says GM investing $632 million in Fort Wayne assembly for future truck production. Let's go and look at this article. And it says GM investing $632 million in Fort Wayne assembly for future truck production. GM is committed to providing jobs that support families and communities across the United States with tens of billions invested in U.S. manufacturing facilities since 2013. All right, let's see. What are they? Are they building gas trucks? Okay, we're going to go right here. It says today we're announcing a significant investment to continue our industry-leading full-size truck business by preparing Fort Wayne Assembly to build the next generation ICE, which stands for internal combustion engine full-size light-duty pickups, said Gerald Johnson, Executive Vice President, Global Manufacturing and Sustainability. This investment reflects our commitment to our loyal truck customers and the hard work of the dedicated Fort Wayne team. So, they just invested $632 million to build out more trucks. And just not even a week before, they stated their commitment to doubling down on the Tesla standard. The same day that they announced 500 million, oh, they broke my computer now. I think GM froze me up. They don't want you all to know this. Let's go to the next article. Okay, let me remind you, that was June 8th. So the June 8th was that article. And then this new announcement. Oh, it's also on June 8th. General Motors doubled down on commitment to the unified charging network. General Motors doubles down on commitment to a unified charging standard and expands charging access to Tesla's supercharging network. Okay, we had one day, $1 billion for Flint for HD trucks. Next day, $500 million for SUVs. The same day, they're doubling down on the commitment to the supercharging network. You don't find it a bit suspicious? Okay, let me widen this. I'm going to go down and dive down into this a bit. And it says that, General Motors announced a collaboration with Tesla to integrate the North American charging standard and NACS connector design into its EVs beginning in 2025. Additionally, the collaboration will expand access to charging for GM drivers at 12,000 Tesla superchargers and growing throughout North America. This agreement completes GM ongoing investment in charging, reinforcing the company's focus on expanding charging access across home, workplace, and public spaces, and builds on the more than 134,000 chargers available to GM EV drivers today through the company's Ultium Charge 360 initiative and mobile apps. That's interesting. They have 134,000 chargers? If that's true, why do they need to? Anyway, let me just skip down to the meat. So if you can go ahead and believe this if you want, but I want to go right here, a cautionary note on forward-looking statements. And if you don't know what this is, a forward-looking statement is a form of a disclaimer. So, and this helps protect them for lawsuits. I'm going to go ahead and read their disclaimer. And so, let me go ahead and get into this. Cautionary note on forward-looking statements. This press release and related comments by management may include forward-looking statements within the meaning of the U.S. federal securities laws. Forward-looking statements are any statement other than statements of historical fact. Forward-looking statements represent our current judgment about possible future events and are often identified by words such as anticipate, appears, approximately, believe, continue, could, design, affect, estimate, evaluate, expect, forecast, goal, initiate, initiative, intend, may, objective, outlook, plan, potential, priorities, project, pursue, seek, should, target, win, will, would. Basically, anything in this statement can be considered is just speculation. Okay, let me continue to read. In making these statements, we rely upon assumptions and analysis based on our experience and perception of historical trends, current conditions, and expected future developments, as well as other factors we consider appropriate under the circumstances. We believe these judgments are reasonable, but these statements are no guarantee of any future events or financial results. Let me read that again. But these statements are not guarantees of any future events or financial results, and our actual results may differ materially due to a variety of factors, many of which are described in our most recent annual report on Form 10-K. Forward-looking statements speak only as of the date they are made, and we undertake no obligation to update publicly or otherwise revise any forward-looking statements, whether as a result of new information, future events, or other factors that affect the subject of these statements, except where expressly required so by law. In other words, this CCS to NACS statement is pure speculation, and they can change it without notifying the public. You can just say, hey, no, I don't think so. We're not going to do that. We're not putting no sports in our vehicle. which is exactly what I expect them to do. Because if they change their minds on this, then that will make people want to buy their vehicles even less. And then they can push this even farther out into the future. Do you get where I'm going with this? These people are playing chess. They're not playing checkers. They are all about this profit. It's billions of dollars of profit on the line here. And so these regulations that are being proposed can put a big hamper in them being able to produce some profit. And I just showed you they're investing billions of dollars. Looks like $2 billion for ICE engines, for internal combustion. And they just invested $2 billion to build out HD trucks and SUVs. Now, does that sound to you like a company that really wants to sell EVs? Does it? And after seeing this, if you believe that GM's commitment or their arrangement with Tesla is a solid deal and it's based in good faith, in the fact that they want to sell EVs, I don't know what to tell you. You can just continue to listen to what all these other YouTubers are saying, or you can follow what I'm saying, because I'm trying to dig down into the facts. I don't have any vested interest in this. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm not even monetized here. So I have a regular job. I make decent money already. I have no vested interest. I'm on YouTube, and I'm not a YouTuber. I'm just here to provide and add value and to put information out that other people are not trying to tell you or may not be able to recognize. So just look over this stuff. I'm going to leave all the links in the description. And hopefully you got some value out of this. And next I'm going to be discussing Rivian's strategy and why they had to sign a deal with Tesla and where I think Rivian's next move is going to be. You just join me in the next video and we'll discuss that. Also hit that like and subscribe button if you're getting some value out of this and you want to hear more. And, help keep me motivated and want to do this and provide value to you. But I'd like to thank you for joining me again today. And I'm going to see you on the next video.